Do-Rag Wisdom here, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Earth Date Y2K 20.09.17. Just 47 days left until the election. And the music you're going to be hearing in the background is from Carmen Dragon, like that last name. The Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original. Fake Senate impeachment trial, no vindication, no adjudication, no exoneration, repeat. No, folks, no. No, schools should not be reopened for in-person instruction, even if risk factors for getting CV19 are low, if that's the thing in the moment, until there is a safe vaccine. I taught 28 years in the New York City school system, and I guarantee that the buildings I worked in during the duration of my career were not properly ventilated. In fact, no matter how you see it, you can't jam 1,000 students into a building meant for 800 and not expect disaster during a pandemic. I recall one of the classrooms that I worked in for the last 8 years of my career. I had to keep all the windows open during the warm weather, and even then, sweat was the order of the day. And during the winter, the heat would come up like a volcano until I had to keep some windows open so that I could breathe and so the students would not either fall asleep or be suffocated. The entire environment of a school building is a vector for disease. Students are often sent to school sick. Both parents are working, whatever. Students will sneeze, cough, spit, whenever and wherever. It was an annual tradition for me, when I was working as a teacher, to catch something at the beginning of the school year, mostly the common cold virus of that season. And for the length of my career, I caught almost everything the students had. I guess my immune system, whatever, everything. And don't get me wrong, I enjoyed, for the most part, dealing with students. It was the adults that were the pains in the ass. Also, some of the germ spreading was my own fault, because I too would show up to work with a cold much of the time. I felt that I had to have some good attendance and be consistent to children who often had parents who weren't. I often wondered at how stuffy being inside my school buildings felt. And when you add the hundreds of people to its environments, you end up with a vector of fatal infection instead of a garden of education. None of these schools should be open. None of them, folks. It is a delusion of normalcy that no longer exists right now in this science fiction, science now science fact world. This virus is airborne. Even the President of the United States said it. Airborne, quote unquote president. Airborne. So unless you hold your breath in crowds, you will breathe in this air. And when you work inside all day, you are even more exposed to danger, because how many buildings in cities, including school buildings, have the kind of healthy ventilation that allows outside air in, that helps drive the infectious air out, in and out. I don't believe that anyone is safe gathering indoors now for anything until we have either a vaccine or a treatment, because some viruses, such as the common cold and the norovirus, the stomach flu, do not have any vaccines because there are so many strains of these two. In fact, there are millions of viruses, folks, that have not yet been discovered or activated yet. But give the human species time. We'll find a way to activate unknown viruses some way, especially in the way we've messed with the climate and our planet's fragile ecosystems. We have problems that we must solve. Our buildings may be tall and massive, but they are designed to suffocate us. Instead of being built with respect to nature, our structures are built against her. The bigger a building, the more its developers want to make you feel small. But worse, no matter how air conditioned, or no matter what they set up to quote unquote purify the air, unless you are getting outside air into your building, taking the bad air out, you are not ventilated. The little machines they have in the corner, the white machines in the corner, oh, we're cleaning the air, we're cleaning the air. Bullshit! A smart thing to do would be to get the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to reconfigure and upgrade all buildings in a city. But most especially to work on upgrading and reconfiguring our schools so that they are actually ventilated in capital letters. So that outside air comes in and goes out with the bad air. This is not going to happen. More of that later. Next, every single household in our country should have computers and have access to the highest broadbands possible. Those in charge with how children get served must be on board for distance learning, as well as for the traditional in-person way. Successful distance learning must have an infrastructure that makes it possible for everyone involved to be accountable. Everything will be done via desktop distance. Homework, quizzes, exams, and lessons can be done on a desktop. Attendance can be taken via desktop. Students can be seen virtually through various online services like Zoom, for example, on a desktop. Classroom and homework can be done on desktop. Parents too must be involved, making sure that their children are following instructions and turning in all their assignments. They too must check in on the desktop. Problem? This is not going to happen either. Reasons we will go over later. But right now, what about the parents? They're working. How can we make them responsible if they're not even at home? The work day and the school days are off. School goes from 8 to 3 or thereabouts, and the work day is generally 9 to 5 with variations. Both parents should be allowed to work if they wish. However, both of them must be equally responsible for their children. To solve this problem, we are going to need to reconfigure the entire work-school day schedule. I like children and young people, so I became a teacher. It was not an easy profession, but had the perks associated with being a New York City professional worker. I made sure to be responsible and receptive to my students, and most importantly, have compassion and dedication with the energy that's supposed to go with that. The most important people in our society are the children. They are the future, and they will be needed to work to manage the social system of the future. The New York Times is referring to this year of CV19 a lost one for our children's education. That's something that's going to have impact way into the future. In-person learning is the best. But in case something horrific happens, like now, distance learning must also be a desirable option, and only when there is accountability. There can be no accountability in distance learning if parents are not home when their children are supposed to be at school. If there are still places where children can attend in person, the workday must be shortened to fit the school day. If children are in school until 3, parents must be freed from their workday at 2. If the school day goes until 4 or 5, parents must be released from work an hour before the end of the school day. The new workday would be from 8 to 2 or 8 to 3 or 8 to 4, all depending on when the school day ends. The most important thing in our society should be that our children are prepared to tackle and solve the various problems that we are leaving them with. But none of anything that I suggested is going to be done, because the most important thing in our American culture and society is to make money! Money makes the world go round, the world go round. This is the value that is killing our spirits, our ideals, our health, our climate, our planet, and our children. No employer is going to want to release parents to take care of their children. Nobody. No way is our government, especially under Diversion Donald, going to fund computers and broadband for every household in our country. It is too much goddess damn money. And imagine the cost of reconfiguring, refitting, and upgrading our school buildings so that they have the proper ventilation. No way is anyone going to give money to such schemes. Let the chemical companies poison us, and let the oil companies pollute us. Make the entire population work their lives away 40 or more hours per week while their children rot in ignorance. And when a worse disaster than COVID-19 comes up, we will all be unprepared to death for that one too. But there's an upside. Some of us will still make a profit and have money. And that's all that matters, right?